we're seeing the flashes of the young kids again.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be overly surprising. You know, again, this is a confident young group, and when they're healthy, they'll play the way that we know how they can play. That doesn't mean that this team is 100% there and ready yet to contend for a playoff spot. There's still some adds that have to be brought into the organization before they officially turn the corner. But there's enough there for management and ownership to see what they've got and know that they're not that far off. And so the decisions that are going to have to be made in the coming weeks here are going to be difficult ones. It's sometimes very easy to address what you believe to be a primary concern, and we've talked about it on this show many times. We know that Edmonton is in the market for a top defenseman. Now the issue, though, becomes, all right, well, what are you willing to pay to get that top defenseman? Are you willing to throw Magnus PRV's name out there in trade circles and draft picks and all that? What, because of the run that Sam Gagner's been on over the last couple of games, is his worth now on the open market, you know, when we get closer to the trade deadline? So there are some big, tough decisions organizationally that Steve Damolini, Kevin Lowe, and to a degree Sam Cates are going to have to, or Daryl Cates, sorry, are going to have to look at and address before they ultimately make that type of a move.
Tom Gilbert here returns for the Oilers, and Andy Sutton is going to be the odd man out at least for tonight. I find it somewhat interesting. Is it a good idea?
This is going to be needed to get him. So you have to manage your lineup according to winning hockey games and how you see fit. And, you know, in certain situations, absolutely the general manager would be disappointed that the head coach sat a player for any particular reason. But I don't think that's the case with Andy Sutton. Was, you know, through the beginning stages of the season or to the midway point, so he deserves credit for that. But I think anyone that would show interest in Andy Sutton knows what he can bring and what his weaknesses are. And for James Reimer, you know, he had the injury, suffered the concussion or concussion-like symptoms, depending on whether Brian Burke is involved in this conversation or not. And it took its toll. When he came back into the crease for the Toronto to bounce back, and in the meantime, he had Jonas Gustafsson, who woke up from his coma and decided that he was going to take a run for it. So there's been an interesting battle between those two guys, and a healthy, you know, battle for the position, and, you know, not anything that's created a controversy, because neither guy has enough experience in the NHL to warrant a controversy. But Reimer has been, you know, near spectacular in his last two starts, and there's no reason why Ron Wilson won't continue to ride him as long as he continues to make the saves that he did, like he did versus Ottawa on the weekend.
This Leafs team is definitely in the mix right now as far as the playoffs in the Eastern Conference goes. But what needs to happen between now and the end of the season for them to actually grab one of those spots and hang on to it?
Well, I think they've got to add another forward, and they've got to add a bigger guy, a body, you know, somebody who can move, you know, some players out of the way to give their skill guys a bit more opportunity. One thing, though, that, you know, has to be is this player has to be able to fit into that dynamic. When you watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play this season, when they're on their game, they're just overwhelming their opposition with speed. And again, we saw that certainly versus Ottawa on Saturday. But that's something the Oilers fans are going to look for, I know.
Luke Schenn, all of a sudden, you know, a guy who's available in Toronto. He's a young guy. He's got a decent plus minus. He's not a horrible defenseman by any
means. With him, Dustin, if it's a can't miss opportunity and shopped, you're certainly not on the block. You know, you look at a good young defenseman, which Luke Schenn is, and that's where the negotiation begins. But it didn't go that far from that point forward, and I know that Toronto has the last few days, I'm told, is starting to work, and the inflammation is going down in his neck, and, you know, some of the issues that he's been struggling with are starting to subside. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure Sidney Crosby is feeling better than he has, you know, perhaps in months. But he also cautioned today that he's not there yet as to when he might return. But the fact he's out there in a full practice and is acknowledging that the treatments appear to be working, well, that bodes well for getting him back into the lineup.
Darren, do you think Scott Gomez will score in the next year?